Hello, I'm Beth Britton. I support Dementia Community with their communications work. Welcome and thank you for joining us for our January webinar. Before we get into the topic for today, I wanted to briefly explain a bit more about Dementia Community. Dementia Community is a charitable community benefit society, a membership cooperative that provides learning and networking opportunities for the dementia care community. Dementia Community's core purpose is to connect and empower the dementia care community. Dementia Community's vision is of a world where all people in the dementia care community feel connected, informed, empowered and purposeful, and are actively engaged in co-producing changes that improve everyone's experience of dementia in care and in wider society. Community members own a £1 community share in Dementia Community, and membership is open to everyone. So if you aren't already a member, please do join us. There are both benefits and opportunities for all of our members. My colleague Beth Lang will put a link in the chat that will take you to our membership page. If you are having any difficulties in joining Dementia Community, please do message Beth Lang or myself and we will aim to help. So on to today's webinar. Our topic today is Innovations in Care and Culture, the Montessori Way using Dementia Care Coaches. I will introduce you to our speakers shortly, but just some brief housekeeping first. We are recording this webinar, so if you don't want your face on the recording, please turn your camera off. Please use the chat for your questions. We will have a Q&A and discussion after the presentation, and we will be keeping an eye on the chat. We hope to have some live participation too. So if you would like to ask a question yourself, please raise your hand when we get to the Q&A. Afterwards, Beth Lang will email you with the slides. The recording will go onto our YouTube channel, Journal of Dementia Care, and so do look out for that. We will also send you a feedback form afterwards, and we would be very grateful if you would fill this in. So that's all the housekeeping done. Let's get started. Our speakers for today are Lynn Fair, who is a professional advisor for Milford Care, Cara Grattan, who is a senior manager at Milford Care, and Kirsty Swift, who is a dementia care coach. Lynn, Cara and Kirsty, welcome. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you very much. So I'm just going to hopefully share my screen. Cara, Kirsty are up in Derbyshire and I'm down in East Sussex. So we hope that this all works amazingly well, but you never know. So thank you very much for coming and listening to what we have to say. And we're talking to you, as you've just heard from Beth, about innovations in care, the Montessori way. Now, that's the first technical problem. Oh, there we are. It's working. Marvelous. So what is the Montessori Way? Well, the Montessori Way is not an activity. We do hear it sometimes talked about in terms of it being an activity, but it's actually about the way that we provide care and support. It's, if you like, a philosophy, an ethos. It's an absolute way of life. It's not something that you do to people living with dementia. It's the way that we just live and work and commune together. Now, Maria Montessori, many of you may have heard of her, and in terms of the schools and children's education. And she actually is a fascinating woman, born in Italy. She was a physician, she was an educator, and she was an innovator. She was the first woman who wanted to go to medical school in their equivalent of Victorian times. She was a suffragette in Italy. She was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. And she worked tirelessly to support children, both on her own and also when she was married. She initially worked with children who had learning disabilities, who back in those days, as here in the UK in the Victorian times, children with severe and profound difficulties were put in institutions and just forgotten about. And she went to work there and she could see that these children were just left. And there was very negative views about them, and comments were made like they do nothing except pick things up off the floor. And Maria Montessori noted that what they needed was stimulation. They need to have something to engage in. They need a purpose. And so she looked at how to help these children to develop in their own way. And indeed, we're all very familiar now when you go into infant schools and reception classes, and they've all got these little tiny tables. And that was one of the first, that was a legacy from Maria Montessori, where she identified that the environment had to be prepared for whoever was using it. And not children were not little adults, they were people in their own rights with their own special needs. So how does this apply to dementia? This is not about treating people who are living with dementia as children. What happened was a psychologist, Dr. Cameron Camp in the United States back in the 80s. His wife was a Montessori teacher, and she obviously at home was talking about Montessori approaches, and he realized from a psychological point of view how some of the principles and some of the approaches could benefit people with dementia. His work focused quite a lot in those days on activity and just having specific activities for people to do. But over time, that too has developed. He introduced the subject to a lady called Gail Elliott in Canada, and she, as a gerontologist, took it one step further and identified and linked it with her work about what happens to a person's brain when they have dementia, so the physiological changes and how that impacts on their behaviour. And this was how the Montessori approach has moved into the care of people with dementia. We've distilled this down, and we very much think about it as being 4 pillars of the Montessori way. And those 4 pillars, which were developed for children, but we feel are completely akin with people living with dementia, is to help someone to be as independent as possible wherever they are on their journey. We will show you many slides today, and you might see people looking very active and doing many things, and you might well question yourself, well, that's fine and dandy for people that perhaps are still very independent, but what about the people that are a long way on their journey? Well, this independent as possible wherever they are on their journey is exactly that. And it might be that for one person, they're up and about, going into town, helping doing the cooking and the cleaning. But for another person, their level of independence is that the staff make sure that they have a hairbrush which is light enough in weight that they can pick it up and they can still brush their own hair. So independence is absolutely relative to where someone is on their journey. The second pillar is to have a meaningful place to feel that they belong. So often we could still see people just being placed in a care home, but not feeling it is their home, not feeling that they belong. And feeling that they belong is not simply having their own furniture in their bedrooms. It's actually feeling that feeling of being part of that community. The third pillar is to have a high self-esteem and a sense of achievement, to feel that there is a purpose to get up in the morning, to feel that they've succeeded. And the way that we ensure people feel that they succeed is to ensure that anything that we ask them to participate in, or anything that we offer them to do, or anything that we set up, reduces the risk of the person failing. And that will change and alter as a person's journey with dementia progresses. And finally, the fourth pillar is to have a chance to make a meaningful contribution and to help others, to actually help to feel that they belong so that they can help people. Because what we have to also bear in mind is that what we're talking about here is those 4 pillars are about being human. It's about humanity. And one of the many things that Maria Montessori also talked about was human needs and traits. And don't we all need a reason to get up in the morning? Don't we all want to know what's going on? Whether what the plan of the day is, even if you say, I haven't got a plan for today, I'm just going to take the day as it comes. That in itself is a plan, and you've made that decision. So for someone living with dementia who's got no idea what's going on, where they are in the world, what's happening in the world, they have no plan. We all enjoy to laugh, to sing, to listen to music, to feel the wind on our face or the sea. We all enjoy simple pleasures. And we all want to feel the security of doing something repeatedly. Whether that's traditions, once a year, Christmas may be celebrated in your home in a very specific way, which is very different to your neighbours, but you repeat for your family those same things every year. Or it might be things that are more regular, that you always do something on a Sunday, or you always go to the gym at 7 o'clock in the morning, or even something more significant, that you always place your clock next to your bedside table. Whatever those things are, and whatever you repeat, whether it's broadly once a year or very, very repeatedly, it's something that we do as humans. We all get satisfaction from achieving something, however small, whether that's tidying a cupboard that's been driving us around the bend for ages and all those plastic lids that fall all over the place, or whether it's thinking about doing a crossword puzzle or a jigsaw puzzle, or knitting, or even actually getting to finish listening to something on the radio, or as I did when I came home yesterday morning. I'd missed the final of Traitors, can you believe it? So I came back and I needed to watch it. I needed to achieve. I had to get that satisfaction, and once I'd watched it, then I was fine. We all need to feel wanted. No one, for example, that's not just wanted in a family sense, but wanted at work. For anyone who's ever gone to work or gone to a club or gone to a party where you've gone, but actually no one talks to you and you feel ostracized, you feel alone. It's that sense of not feeling wanted. We all need that as humans. And we all need a personal routine. We've all got a personal routine, whether we recognize that or not. We all clean our teeth at the same time, whether that's before your breakfast or after breakfast. We'll all dress in the same order. We'll all undress in the same order. We've all got funny, quirky little ways. Perhaps we've got a favourite cup we like our tea in, and a favourite cup we have our coffee in. Perhaps we've got a favourite place that we sit in the daytime, sit at home. And if one of the family members comes and sits in your chair, you're saying, "Oi, get out of that chair, that's my chair." We all need these things as humans. So why do we not ensure that our residents and people that live in care, or even people who are still living at home but are being supported by home care services, don't have those same things as well? So this illustrates actually the belief of routine as being something very abusive has got a double-edged sword. Working in safeguarding for most of my career, I absolutely know the organisational abuse that goes on when people have ritualistic routines and they're forced to do something at a certain time because that is what the care home demand. But equally, if I don't support somebody to get up at a time that suited them for the last 60 years, to clean their teeth at the time they want, or to sit in a chair that has become their place because they feel safe in that chair, I'm not honouring their personal routine. So we have to actually be sure that things that we do, some words that have become synonymous with bad care, actually are only bad care if they're taken out of context. There is nothing wrong with routine. We all need it. There is nothing wrong with having a favourite chair. We all have these funny little ways. So why do we suddenly think, because someone's living in a care home, that it's not the same? But we also, through the Montessori Way, absolutely follow Kitwood's work. And indeed, if only he was here to ask, did Kitwood study Montessori, who was around 80 years before Tom did his work? Because so much of what Tom did in his seminal work actually is what Maria Montessori talks about. So we talk about how all of these things, how the Montessori Way runs like golden threads through everything we do. The Montessori Way is not learning a different theoretical framework. It's actually learning how do we support people with humanity and to be human as we are human, as they are human. This is what we're talking about here, and this is what can so often get forgotten. And these golden threads are about leadership and commitment, courtesy, invitation and grace, activity and fun. And they run through the legal framework, the biomedical approaches. They run through the professional work, whether you're a nurse or an OT or a doctor, and they run through how we think about applying the brain and behaviour. They are just threads run through as a philosophy. So when we're teaching the Montessori Way to staff at Milford, we actually start, and we don't start, but we actually talk a lot about upholding key legislation. And again, we talk about the most important piece of legislation. And so often staff will say, when I ask the question, what's the most important piece of legislation for people with dementia? They'll say the Mental Capacity Act. But actually, the most important piece of legislation for people living with dementia, as it is for you and as it is for me, is actually the Human Rights Act, because the Human Rights Act are what enable us to be free in this world and in this country. Underneath that sits the Health and Social Care Act, sits the Mental Capacity Act, Health and Safety at Work. So it's important for us, for people understanding the Montessori Way, that staff really, really, really value residents as equals. And of course, with the freedoms that we have, it steps back that under the Mental Capacity Act and DOLS, we have to put in restrictions. But we start with thinking about the freedoms. And we feel it's very important that people can put these things in context. We also talk to them about truth-telling and the 5 levels of truth-telling, and how important it is to understand the difference between a lie and a therapeutic untruth. And another thing that we talk about a lot is either an introduction or revision of dementia from the inside, looking at we use a number of the films that actually show people's personal experiences of dementia. But we also talk about how the memory works, and we focus a lot on declarative and procedural memory. Now, I've been a nurse for 45 years and done lots of different courses in lots of different ways. And I have to say, whether I've sort of been missing the plot for all those years, but I've never really had much education until recently, when I've been educating myself about the importance of declarative and procedural memory. You talk to a psychologist and they'll know all about it, possibly OTs as well. But for mainstream perhaps nurses, care workers, the importance of understanding the difference between declarative and procedural memory is missed on many, many dementia courses. And the difference is understanding that when someone's memory is failing, the declarative memory goes before the procedural memory. Their ability to have abstract thinking disappears, but their procedural memory retains. So much of the Montessori Way, which is about preparing the environment, is what, as we say, if it's not still being stored in their head, we have to put it into the environment to enable them to be as independent as possible. We have to think about sensory memory, how we communicate, and invitation and courtesy and grace. We talk about rights-based risk assessment, and we do a lot of talking about don't let your first thought be we can't, because your first thought must be we can, I'm sure, let's find a way. And we explore the myths and legends that have grown up around health and safety and about rights-based risk assessment. And as you can see in these pictures here, we've got Gracie doing the ironing now, helping the laundry, preparing food, helping doing the hoovering. There's John there helping doing the hoovering. These are all very real things that go on. But coming back to the Equality Act, we have to think about how do we put that in practice, and we do talk a lot about that as well. And one example of a very prepared environment, so remember, if someone can't retain the information in their head, under the Equality Act, we have to try to make the environment as friendly as possible for that person to be as independent as possible. If you have someone in a wheelchair, you put in a ramp. If you have someone with memory problems who can't remember where to store things, then we put up signs. Signage is not a sign of institutionalization. Signage, appropriately used, is a sign that we're actually upholding this person's human rights under the Equality Act. And we just want to show you a very quick little film of Jeff, which I have to take my headphones out, otherwise you can't hear it.
So Jeff, can you tell me how you find things in your bedroom?
By looking at the sign. Well, you're going and having a look. Sorting out the signs that are on.
Lovely. So if you look behind you in your wardrobe, Jeff, how would you find things in there?
Same there. Same on the door. The 4 signs. What's in it? Shoes, boots, bags, socks, jackets, coats, nightwear.
And then if you open the wardrobe,
Open the wardrobe and find them.
lovely. How do the signs help you, Jeff?
Well, help. Certainly would help.
Do they help you find things in your bedroom?
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you, Jeff.
So as you could see there, the signage was actually helping Jeff to be independent, but was also upholding his rights under the Equality Act. So how is the theory and the 4 pillars are managed and merged? It's about having a very prepared environment, taking those standards set out by the King's Fund and the University of Worcester to a next level, inviting people to help out, giving them something to do, activity through the day and night, having fun, focusing on what people can do and not what they can't, courtesy, invitation and grace, beauty, routine, supporting a sense of belonging in their community, but also thinking about the culture of the organisation and having well-trained and motivated staff. Activity stations around the home. So having things set up, some may be permanent, some may be changeable. And yes, we have got Brasso out, because most residents will know Brasso for the last 60 years. The tin's never changed. They know what it is. It's very much in their procedural memory. We've not yet had any problem of anyone trying to eat it, just in case someone is wondering. A very prepared dining room. We've had great success whereby setting out the food, inviting people to come up and look at the food, or changing staff's ideas of taking someone to the dining room and putting them by the table and then getting what they know to be their favourite breakfast. But actually, by taking them up to show them all the different food, what actually happens is the person starts choosing different things. So the care assistant, who's thought that they really understand the resident very well, because we know that person loves porridge and John loves his porridge. So, John, would you like your porridge this morning? Yes, please, says John, because John's actually lost the ability to think, well, actually, I fancy something different than porridge. What else is there? He hasn't got that ability because he's lost that conceptual ability. So by showing him, he actually will choose something different. And we have found people eating a lot more. No, they don't. There's no more wastage. No, they don't stick their fingers in it. All of those negative connotations. But having a very prepared environment enables people to be independent, make choices, and we eat with our eyes, of course. Now I'm going to show you another little film here. And this is a film about how, by preparing the environment, by thinking how we could help somebody be independent and changing the mindset, we can actually improve someone's life. I'm going to show you 2 or 3 films. They're all real films, real residents from our homes. And this particular lady, you will also see how easy it is for us to so quickly get into a routine. This lady was helped to eat her meals by sitting in a chair. Staff can't remember when Sheila started having her food in a chair. It's something that happens. I'm sure you've got many residents in your homes who might, for one reason or another, have been assisted to eat sitting in an armchair, and then it becomes the norm. But let's just see what happens when we change that.
Oh, Lynn, I can't hear it. I don't know if anybody else is struggling. Lynn, have you got your head?
Yeah, I've got no sound either.
Lynn, have you still got your headphones in? Don't think anyone can hear this unless anyone can.
No, I can't hear it either.
Any ideas, Beth Lang?
No, the last one played well, but Lynn, have you still got your headphones in? Can you hear it?
don't know if Lynn can actually hear us, actually.
No.
Lynn, can you hear me? Apologies, everybody, if you just bear with us a moment.
Sorry, Beth, I can't hear you and I have to unplug so that you can hear the video.
Yeah, we can't hear the video, unfortunately. I don't think anybody can.
Could you see it?
We can see it, but we can't
Oh, well,
hear it.
that's all right. Could you hear Jeff earlier?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So you could see the pictures. That was the most important thing. I don't know why. I'm sorry. I don't understand.
Such a
what happened with
shame.
that.
Don't worry, it's
But
technology.
the important thing was that you could see the images, and you could see the images of how Sheila was actually started off by being assisted in the chair, and by the end of the process with the staff, she was being taken out to the pub and was eating with finger food. So it's also important to think about how we invite people to go outside and having a reason to go outside. So we've got signs to support independence outside. We've got signs to support independence and a sense of belonging inside. These are things that go on in the corridor. Sign inviting people to have a piece of fruit. You might tell people that they're welcome to help themselves to fruit or drink, but they won't remember necessarily. So they won't touch it. So what do we have to do? We put a sign up next to it, inviting them to eat the fruit, and they will then eat the fruit. Because if someone could read before they got dementia, they will still be able to read afterwards. Another way of engaging with people, this is a cognitive stimulation activity, is reading a reading group. These books, especially written for people living with dementia, looking at the research about how you write a book and how you enable people to read. But again, the book is specially prepared as well as the environment for people to engage and enjoy an activity. It might be a focused activity. This particular lady had lived abroad, enjoyed making exotic curries when she was at home, and so she was supported to be able to do that. Everything was prepared and organised. She was assisted by the chef and able to do it. And simply having fun. We all enjoy simply having fun. But then how do we engage with people to help them have a sense of purpose and helping out? And this can be in all sorts of shapes, in all sorts of ways, depending on someone's ability and their interests. We can have people having regular ways of supporting us, or just helping out for special occasions. How often in the past have I seen residents watching staff very enthusiastically putting up the Christmas decorations, being passively engaged? Or the picture in the middle here, this is a lady actually on the floor helping the activity coordinator to get a display ready for Halloween, and helping them to prepare the food for a party that they were having, so that they are absolutely part of everything and feeling that they belong. The helping out may be occasionally, or it might be regularly. And it's about ensuring that the equipment is right. We have a gentleman here using a very old-fashioned push-along mower. He couldn't, by positively risk assessing, he wasn't able to manage the big heavy mower that was in that home. He wasn't able to manage an electric mower, but the home bought him a small push-along mower. And as you can see there, David, he's able to water the plants from his wheelchair. And the lady in the bottom folding the sheets, even though she's unable to get out of the chair herself. It's about adjusting it, but enabling people to have self-esteem and feel that they belong. Using different nooks and crannies around the home. Not every home is ideally designed, so it's taking advantage of what little shelf space there is, but also making sure that if there's a sign there that says, please help yourself to a drink, that there are actually drinks there for people to help themselves to. We also talk very much and use a primary prevention approach to responsive behaviour. Because how can all these things be actually helping somebody apart from them? You know, they don't just look nice. And we focus very much on a primary prevention approach. So before we even think about whether someone is going to become distressed, we're thinking about the whole environment. We're thinking about the staff training, the staff attitude, whether the environment is clean and tidy and warm, or whether there's nice smells and aromas, whether there are things for people to do. Obviously, we ensure the food is of good quality, that they have plenty to drink, that all their medical needs are met. And all of those things, factors, and many more are what come into the primary prevention approach. Because if someone is engaged and busy, then and feel that they belong, they are going to be more settled in themselves, as we all are settled in ourselves, if we feel we have purpose and we feel we belong and we feel satisfied with our lives. So by putting all these things in place, even before we start wondering whether a certain resident is going to be distressed or not, it helps to reduce the risk of that happening. And then the secondary intervention is where we focus on an individual person, which we would use the Newcastle model, for example, but we would also enhance that by again thinking about what do we know about this person and what can we ask them to be engaged with before they ever get distressed or anxious. And the tertiary intervention is how we would respond if someone did become anxious or distressed. So it's about how the Montessori approach really is a big focus on that primary intervention, and how we can really work with them. Now, I have got a couple of other films, and I think we're just going to have to see, Beth, whether or not whether we can hear them. But I'm going to have to take this out, so I won't. You'll have to wave at me. There's nothing said on them. The only thing you're missing, if you can't hear it, apart from being it like watching a silent movie, the only thing that you will be missing is some music. So you're not missing any conversation. So if I sort of say that, is that okay? But we'll give this a try. So this first film, again, it's a film that made at Ashbourne Lodge, one of our homes, was made by one of our dementia care coaches. And it shows the story of Jean and how the staff were trying to work out how best they could help her when she was very distressed. Because responsive behaviour is, as we all know, is not just simply about people being overtly responsive and distressed. It can be that people become very withdrawn as well.
Sweetie, have a go. Well done.
Nice. Oh, very good. How are they doing it? Like that. Yeah. You want to see? Somewhere. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You want to see? Thank you. Yeah, was the way we think of it. That's right. You ready, Jude? Way. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Ready? Ready?
So could you hear the music that time?
Yes,
Oh, you did that time. Oh, how strange. So I've got one more little film to show you about how looking at things differently, how really addressing from a primary point of view, how we can deal with support people who are having responsive behaviours, is another film that was made in one of our homes. The words come up quite quickly, so I will just give you a little summary. Sarah is a lady who was having very distressed nights. She wasn't sleeping well. She was very anxious, would be getting up out of bed repeatedly. But the staff started to think about Sarah and about what she really enjoys and what gives her a sense of purpose. And as you will see through this little film, you can see what they actually did. And there is one little bit, in case you can't hear it, where you see the care assistant with Sarah in her bedroom, where Sarah is holding her baby. The care assistant says to her, and as you know, Sarah, when the baby sleeps, you sleep. And that gives you a hint of what the film's about. So as you can see, so many different ways that we are looking to help people feel fulfilled. I'm now going to hand over to Kara, who's going to talk about the culture change. And as you can see from all those films, there's 6 homes at Milford Care, and this is an approach that goes across the whole organisation. So over to you, Kara.
Hi, I wish to give you a brief insight into how Milford Care we're changing the culture, changing the hearts and minds of our staff. It's been a great journey so far. To start with, I'll explain how we found Montessori and how we worked across the organisation to bring about change of culture and to benefit not only our residents but our staff as well. So next slide, Lynn. So 2017, Lynn calls me up and says, I have seen the most amazing idea on my visit to Australia, the Montessori approach. And it sits with how you and I believe that residents should be encouraged and enabled to live their lives as part of their communities, be a true part of it. We agreed to investigate further. In 2018, Anne Kelly, who was the Australian trainer for Montessori approach over there, came over to the UK, and she came to Milford Care and she trained 30 staff from across the 6 homes. Everyone was full of enthusiasm and ideas, and off we all went to start changing the way we work and the way we do things. We did really well, but in the short term, but sustaining it became difficult as staff didn't always understand what we were trying to achieve. After dissecting why it did not work more successfully the first time, we felt to change the culture, we had to have buy-in from every one of our staff. After discussion with our director, we made a strategic plan to invest financially and in time in a total organisational approach, as we knew in our hearts that the Montessori ethos was so right for our residents and our staff. So in 2019, we made the decision to make the organisational change. So everyone in the organisation had to do the mandatory training, from the director, the senior managers, the catering staff, domestic staff, the admin, the maintenance staff. And it did not matter whether you work 3 hours or 40 hours per week, all staff are expected to undertake this training, go back to their homes and to practice what they've been taught. So it was a good job in 2019 that Lynn started to write the training course. We have continued to grow and develop over the last 5 years and have adjusted our learning. The more we experience and understand this wonderful ethos, this has included our interior designer, attended training and works to implement the ethos within design, commissioning bespoke activities, and also the introduction of Dementia Care Coaches, who are advanced practitioners in our organisation, which Kirsty will explain a little bit more to you later. So we currently have 72% of staff have completed the 1 or the 2 day course. We are running 3 more courses this year, so hopefully by the end of this year, that will be a lot higher. We're in the process of completely redesigning our induction training for all staff. Whilst we made some changes to include it in the ethos, again, by dissecting it and looking at the feedback, we need to embed our ethos and what it truly means from the very first minute that staff join Milford Care. We've also reviewed our policies and procedures so that the language and the ethos is established within those. Next slide, Lynn. So as a result of implementing the Montessori ethos, it has made us rethink our care culture how we as staff work together and the true importance of working together. We have developed what we call the jigsaw culture. This means we do not have a hierarchy at Milford Care. We see ourselves as equals. We are all as important as each other. It does not matter if you are the director, the senior manager, the nurse, the laundry, or the Saturday tea time pot washer. We are all as important as each other. We just have different areas of responsibility, and the jigsaw needs all the pieces for it to be complete. So staff are taught in their training about the sphere of influence, and that we all have our part to play in this. Some may say the director and the managers have the biggest sphere of influence, but do they? A staff member who only works a few hours, who decides that they are not going to adopt the Montessori ethos and puts it down, does not engage and tries to take others with them on their destructive path, this can have a bigger sphere of influence than the director and the managers. We show staff and teach them that they are responsible individually and as a team player to use their sphere of influence in a positive way at all times. Show others the way, lead by example. Do not listen to the negative thoughts of others, rise above it. As leaders of the ethos, culture and training, it is important to recognise that some staff will need more support than others to get the ethos and how to apply it in their everyday work. Some staff need support with reading and writing in their coursework and their documentation. Some staff are fast, some staff are slow. Most are incredibly positive and feel the sense of joy throughout the training. At the training, as a senior manager, I attend all the sessions. If I am unable to, then another manager will attend. It is important that staff see this so that we can inform the staff about the positives of the ethos, not only for our residents, but for them as staff members. How could you not feel completely satisfied that you enabled a resident to mow the lawn, help out in the kitchen, or you reduce their anxiety by helping them to be a little bit more independent? I also inform staff at the start of the training, if after the 2 days or the 1 day they feel that this ethos is not for them, then Milford Care has no place for them. So we are very clear right from the beginning that this is our ethos, this is what we believe, this is what we do. If you don't want to join that, then we can't support you in the workplace. Leading and managing a culture change is exhausting. It's hard work. You take 3 steps forward and 1 back. It takes time and understanding that you cannot change overnight. But all of that is worth it when I see how the Montessori ethos has changed the lives of our residents. When I see them living their best life, being fully valued as members of their communities, sometimes having a new lease of life, feeling and seeing their joy, I feel this ethos in my heart and know it is absolutely the right thing to pursue. I'll now hand you back to Lynn.
Thanks. Thank you, Cara. So what we then did was we looked to see how we could improve and support the senior managers and the staff doing the work day in, day out. And I attended the University of Worcester postgraduate certificate course, and I did the 1-year FITS into Practice program, because University of Worcester had identified that that there's so much training out there for people with dementia, but often it doesn't change practice, and it certainly doesn't change the hearts and minds of staff. So I undertook the 1-year FITS into Practice program, which is actually what developed the Dementia Care Coach role, and I adjusted it to incorporate the Dementia Care, the Montessori Way. So the FITS into Practice program successfully was to improve the care and quality of life of residents, but it needed champions who had knowledge, skills in practice, skills in coaching, skills in leadership, passion, compassion and commitment. So it was no mean feat. And one of our first dementia care coaches was Kirsty, who we now have quite a number across all the homes. And Kirsty is going to tell you a little bit about her role. Kirsty, I will just say, Beth, there is a little film that we're going to show here where people do need to be able to hear what is being said. So I will try and play it, but if it doesn't work, then I'll perhaps, if you raise your hand, then I'll have to stop sharing so that you can show it. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Beth Lang that would show that because she's got
Okay.
the control.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you'll have to let me know if you can't hear it. So Kirsty, over to you.
Hi. So part one of the course was about understanding dementia and about how to deliver person-centered care, looking at each person as an individual, gathering information about how we could support them and how we could treat everybody, individual in their own way. We looked at how to help others understand that Montessori, it isn't an activity, as Lynn says, it's a way of life, it's the way we do things. We're not doing a Montessori activity, it should just flow throughout the homes on a daily basis, whether that be day or night. The importance of family, and that's whatever it means to that person. It might not be family, i.e. Brother, sister, daughter, that actually might be a friend, or just someone that they take to in the home and someone they have a good relationship with. We also as well understood responsive behaviours and the elimination of sort of words that we use to describe responsive behaviour. So the bad terminology. So rather than just kicking off, which is often used in homes, or aggression, actually what does responsive behaviour mean? Someone might be responding to, they might be upset, there might be not a need that's being met, and actually looking at why someone is presenting with responsive behaviour. The importance of communication, so that be with residents, with staff, and as a whole. Lynn, next slide, please. So part two of the course, that covered more of the leadership skills. So as a dementia care coach, what we could take back to our homes. So looking at how to measure the quality of care. So we were taught how to use audits, actually sitting back and observing. We were taught how to use a sit and see tool, which I will explain more on the next slide. So medication audits, reading screen assessments. So actually, gathering if what residents could read, what they could read, and which was really surprising once going back to the homes. Individual learning styles, really, and how to prepare and deliver bite-sized teaching sessions. So based on the information from the sit and see, what could we then, what did we gather then to sort of to deliver a bite-sized teaching sessions to the staff, and actually what a coach is, how to be a leader in the home, and how to sort of get the staff really on board with it, and how to sort of follow that through. And it's all about motivating staff, getting them on board, and and actually letting them see the difference in that the ethos makes to the residents' lives. We also looked at how to plan, do, study, and how to implement a new practice in the homes, and also looking at the roles and responsibilities of a DCC, the commitment, as Lynn's already mentioned. It's about being brave as well, and standing up for what's right for the residents. And you're not always going to be staff's favourite. There are going to be times when sometimes you're going to come up against a staff member and they're going to be negative, and it's about sort of really channeling that as well. Lynn, can we have the next slide? So the dementia care coach role, so that really, a big part of that is to uphold the philosophy, the practice of the Montessori Way, you know, looking and striving for continuously improving well-being of the residents that live within the homes. As I've already mentioned, championing the reduction of inappropriate antipsychotic medications. We've actually got a really good example of that at the home that I'm at. We've got a resident who had been on risperidone for quite some time, and we worked. We had a multidisciplinary team meeting, and we actually worked with the doctor, with the mental health team, in reducing the risperidone that she was on. And actually now she's eating better, she's joining in with activities, she's such a big part of the home now, and she's living her life again. And a big part of helping her with the reduction of that was to put in and to use, you know, the skills that I'd learned on the course, and to also as well show staff how it could be done. And actually that the use of medication, you know, isn't always the answer. So another thing, so we demonstrate enhanced knowledge and skills in dementia care, lead and educate others, lead by example, you know, make sure that we're the ones that are really following and leading by what we've been taught. Provide teaching, guidance and support sessions for staff. That is a big part of the role. And as I've already mentioned, working with external professionals to ensure high standards of dementia care practice, whether that be the doctor, the mental health team, you know, staff in the home, nurses, and really working as a group, you know, to find what's best in interest for the residents. Can I have the next slide, Lynn, please? A dementia care coach isn't an activity coordinator. They aren't the only person to ensure that the Montessori Way is upheld. They're not a spare pair of hands in the home, you know, to sort of nip to a doctor's appointment with a resident, or, you know, whatever it may be. It's not a role that can be dropped because leadership staff feel that it's not important. So it's not a role that in 6 months' time a manager says, well, you know, we've done that, that's fine, we don't really need a dementia care coach anymore. That's not the case. It's not an optional role for each of the home. It's, you know, it's what's happening. It's in all of the homes. There's dementia care coaches across the group. And also as well, the managers, they're not the manager's pet or the golden person, which has been said, you know, that's not the case at all. Lynn, can I have the next slide?
I just talked there, Beth, have we got, I'm just conscious of the time.
Yes, we're running a little bit out of time. I wonder if we could maybe, I don't know if any of the films are available that we could share on a link.
Yeah, well, this film, we can leave this film. Sorry, Kirsty.
That's okay.
We'll have to leave Jeff's film. I'll go past it. Perhaps if you could just tell us a little story about Graham, and then I'm just conscious of we'll just do Graham, and then we'll have to wrap it up, I think.
So I want to talk to you today about Graham. So we talk a lot about person-centeredness, and looking at each person as an individual. So Graham, whilst at home, had a son, and when his son was younger, they'd spend each Sunday morning building Lego. You know, it held a lot of happy memories for Graham. And actually, for some residents, it doesn't have to be big things. For Graham, you know, it was ordering a Lego kit online, which cost £10, and it was sitting with him for an hour, in which that hour he was stimulated. He was able to reminisce about his time spent with his son on a Sunday morning. And it's something that can be repeated again. So, you know, once Graham's not looking, we can take the car to bits, and then we, you know, it's something that can be done, you know, at each time perhaps Graham feels upset, or, you know, he's presenting with responsive behaviour. We can sit with Graham and we can use that as part of our toolkit. So, you know, that's really beneficial to Graham.
And anyone, the film that we were going to show about Jeff is Jeff going from the care home to play walking football, and it talks about the risks that we had to assess. Kirsty, I'm very sorry, we're just running out of time.
Yeah,
so Kirsty, we'll just have to finish. So the 4 pillars, as we've said, to be as independent as possible, having a meaningful place and a high self-esteem, and for people to make a meaningful contribution. These principles actually can be applied anywhere, in anything. It doesn't in any approach that you take. So thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry we had to cut you short, Kirsty, but I'm just conscious of the time. And thank you very much indeed for coming and listening to what we have to say.
Thank you so much, ladies. That was just fabulous to listen to you, listen to the journey that you've been on. We do have a question. It's in the chat and it's from Karen. And she said, is the DCC role a supernumerary role? And is there only one DCC per home?
Kara, could you answer that?
Yeah. So in some of our homes, the DCC role is supernumerary. That is our intention in all 6 eventually. So Kirsty was the first one that became supernumerary, and we do have supernumerary in our other homes. Now, to do that, we haven't actually spent any more money. We've just sort of readjusted some of the other roles and the areas of responsibility within them to be able to create the hours using the same pot of money, if you like. So each home has more than one. So not all of them are supernumerary. Some of them do their role as part of the work that they do. So they could be a care assistant who's working with, you know, full time, and they actually implement the coaching and the teaching as they are working. So yeah, we're sort of, because it's new, we're finding the right way for that to sit.
Thank you, Kara. Thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to ask a question before we wrap up? It was incredibly interesting. There's loads of questions I'd like to ask you, Lynn. I think that what you talked about, routine, really interesting, how it's considered to be institutionalized, but actually, you know, it actually can be incredibly important for people. The way you're using signage, you know, have a piece of fruit, stuff like that, really interesting. Love that breakfast buffet. That just looked like I wanted to dive in and eat something. So just loads of really great takeaways. Catherine says, sit and see tool. What is this?
Well, the sit and see tool is something that I developed a few years ago, and it's an observation tool to enable you to observe care and compassion. So you're not observing what someone is doing, you're observing how someone does it. So are they being caring and compassionate? Are they just being businesslike, or are they being poor? So it's not looking at what they do, it's looking at how they do it, which is something that actually is what signifies care and compassion.
And is that available for us to learn more about?
It was available. It's currently in the process of being transferred to another company at the moment. So it will be available again, but it's not just available at this time, but it will be available again in the future when the transfer has taken place.
Super. So that's something for the future. And Charlotte says, really wonderful and encouraging. Thank you. When are you coming to Sheffield? I would love to work with you. I'm an OT, so I really get this.
Sheffield's not far from Derbyshire.
It's not. So you would be more than welcome to come and visit us and see what we do.
How do people get in touch with you? Can they get in touch with you through that website address?
I've put your Milford Care website address on there, so they would be able to go through the inquiries there. And that also at the end on that last slide is the website, my website, which has got about the books, if anyone's more interested in about the dementia books, that the reading books that we write for people living with dementia to be able to read. So you'll be able to get in touch with us via those 2 websites.
I'd be more than happy to share my email with you, Beth, that you can share with the people that are listening. So if they did,
if you're happy to put it in the chat, please do. That's entirely up to you.
Yeah.
Catherine's saying a day out for a Charlotte, so I think you've got a couple of visitors headed your way.
That's good. We like visitors.
And I'd just like to say I just noticed a name pop up when in the people that were visiting. So just a hello to Adrian Muir that Kara and I worked with 26 years ago. I noticed his name.
Hello.
I noticed his name pop up. So I hope, for goodness sake, it's the same Adrian. But it's lovely to see that name pop up after 26 years.
It's fabulous. Thank you. We are all out of time, so
I have just shared my email address on the chat.
Thank you so much, Kara. Thank you. And we're all out of time, ladies. I would love to hear more from you, but thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Kara. Thank you,
You're
Kirsty.
welcome.
Thank you.
And
welcome.
just share with everyone who is with us today, our next webinar is on Tuesday, the 27th of February. It's non-pharmacological prescribing in a care home liaison service. And my colleague Beth Lang has popped the link in the chat. So do join us for that. Apologies, my son has just got home. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.